Why do you want this particular post? What's your motivation for running?
Well, I think it goes back to when I was a young kid. I mean, I think the simple answer is that I just want to do good things. But it goes back to when I was a child. When I was a child, like many of you, I'd get stopped on the street, and people would say to me, "Hey, is your father Dan O'Brien?" And I'd say, "Yeah." And they'd say, "Well, he gave me my first home loan when nobody else would." You see, back in the day, back in the 70s, when my father was a loan officer, there are individuals, and this one woman who stopped me on the street a few weeks ago said to me that she went to my dad after not being able to secure a home mortgage from 4 different banks. She went to my father, and my father said to her, "Are you going to pay every month?" "Yes." "You going to pay us on time?" "Yes." "Okay, we're going to give you that home loan." And they shook hands, and it was done. And over 30 years, she didn't miss a payment. And that was the kind of home that I grew up in as a young child, a home where my dad was trying to do some good things for people who otherwise couldn't get home loans. And that woman stopped me and said, "You know what, your father's a really good person. I'll never forget him for doing that." And it made me feel real good. People have stopped me on the street when I was a young child and said, "Hey, is your mom the teacher over at Holy Rosary School?" "Yeah." She was standing up on top of the desk talking about isosceles triangles last week. She's my favorite teacher. And that'd make me feel real good. I want someday for somebody to stop my kids on the street and say, "Hey, is your daddy Corey O'Brien?" "Yeah." "Well, you know what? He's done a lot of really good things for our region, like the boundless playgrounds that we've done in Lackawanna County, like balancing, now we'll be moving on to balancing 4 straight budgets during the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression without raising taxes, instituting a code of ethics to try to start restoring and rebuilding some confidence and trust in what we're all trying to do here. And other parks and recreational programs, starting a park in the North Pocono section of Lackawanna County where one doesn't exist. One of the things I want to say just quickly about the Boundless Playground, one of the things I'm very proud of at this point, one of the themes that you will hear today is that this campaign is about leveling the playing field in a whole host of different ways, from Wall Street to Main Street, young and old, children with special needs and those children who don't have a special need, able-bodied kids. And I demonstrated that, I think, in the best way with the Boundless Playground Initiative. And the Boundless Playground Initiative is a $2 million initiative where we're building 6 universal access boundless playgrounds in Lackawanna County. The first was a $700,000 playground at McDade Park when you include labor costs. And what that playground is, handicap accessible playgrounds mean that somebody in a wheelchair can go up to it and touch it, but it doesn't mean they can get on it. What a universal access boundless playground is that someone in a wheelchair can get to the highest height in that playground, can go down the sliding board just like any able-bodied kid, can ride on and swing on the swings just like anybody else. And what I said before we did it was that I believe there'd be incredible interactions between these children who have special needs and able-bodied kids, and that we would break down the barriers. But we would also break down the barriers of misunderstanding between the parents, who when they're walking down the street with their able-bodied kid, and somebody's coming down the other side of the street or that side of the street with a child in a wheelchair, oftentimes the individual with the able-bodied child would either cross the street or maybe just kind of ignore the interaction altogether because they wouldn't understand what afflicted that child and why that child had that special need. So there'd be just this, because there was a misunderstanding or lack of communication, they just wouldn't interact. Now we see children of we see parents of able-bodied kids and special needs kids sharing the same bench. And you know what they're saying? "Hey, what's it like having a daughter who runs all over the place? It's got to be tough to keep an eye on them." And that parent with the able-bodied, "Well, what's wrong with your son?" And now they get talking. And now education and knowledge breaks down those barriers. And I'm very, very proud of that. And that's one of the things that I want to do in Washington. I want to try to level the playing field, break down barriers between all of us, and start reinvesting here in our main streets, and stop spending all of our time and all of our money saving big banks on Wall Street.